Hey, what's up everybody? This is Osterberg501 and today I want to go over the lowest recoil build for the AKM in patch 12.9 of Escape from Tarkov. Now before we get into the video, 99% of you that watch my videos aren't subscribed, so make sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with all my Escape from Tarkov videos. And like with all of my videos, there will be a link in the description to the Tarkov Gunsmith, so you can easily see all the parts you need for this build and see the updated prices for all these parts on the flea market. Now this is pretty much the best fully automatic weapon you can get in the 7.62x39 cartridge, with BSG giving that gift early on in the wipe that gave everybody like 900 BP rounds, and BP rounds being relatively cheap for how good that bullet is, even though the stats for this weapon aren't that great when comparing it to some of the other meta weapons. Being able to get BP rounds as cheap as they are makes this still a pretty compelling weapon build. So first off, we are using the Fab Defense PDC dust cover, which is going to allow us to put our sight on. And then for the sight, you can use whatever you want, but the only things you have to determine when choosing your sight are what range you want to use these sights at, what sights you like to use, and how much those sights are going to affect the ergo of the weapon. And then we're going to be using the Zenit RP1 charge handle, which will give us one additional ergo. And then for the stock, we're going to be using the ME adapter for AK. Then on that, we're going to be having the Mesa Tactical Crosshair hydraulic buffer tube, and then on that we're using the Magpul PRS Gen 3 stock. And then we are going to be using the Zenit RK3 pistol grip. Now there are two other pistol grips that have these same exact stats. We have this Scorpius pistol grip, and then we have the US Palm pistol grip. Now I know the US Palm is for one of the gunsmith quests, so I'm not sure the prices of those, but just choose out of these three pistol grips, whichever one is the cheapest, go ahead and use it. They all give the same exact stats. With the changes to how a lot of parts affect ergo of weapons, and with this weapon not having a stick 60 rounder, I don't think using the drum mags for this are viable at all. With this lowest recoil, I have 43 ergo, which is actually usable, but if you go, say, from this 30 rounder to a 50 rounder, you're losing 14 ergo. That turns the weapon into completely not usable in my opinion with the amount of ergo it has. So I think sticking with 30 rounders for this is going to be your best bet, and I would recommend this 30 rounder right here, the aluminum one that looks very much used. And the reason I recommend this is there are multiple 30 rounders that pretty much give the same ergo, but some of these, especially if you don't have the vendor buy, are kind of expensive. This 30 round magazine is pretty early on in vendor ranks. It's only like 2k and it gives the same amount of stats. The only reason you would choose something like the Palm US AK 30 or the other colored Palm AK US 30 is because they look a bit better, but in my opinion, just stick with these ones. They're the same exact thing, they just look a little bit worse. Then for the grip, we're going to be using the Victor CAS-V Keymod 6-inch guide. Now there are two 6-inch guides that you can use. Just choose whichever is cheaper. There's also the Strike Industries. Whichever is cheaper, they do the same exact thing. Just pick up that. Then for the lowest recoil, we're going to be using the Zenit RK2. Now that is what I would actually recommend on this build because this doesn't have the lowest recoil. So going with something like the Zenit RK1 or the Fortis Shift Tactical Grip, in my opinion, just adds a little bit too much recoil. And I think the ergo of this weapon, with how it's built, is actually usable already. And then for a tactical device, we're going to be having a Victor CAS-V Keymod 2-inch guide. And on that, we have a tactical device. I use the D-Ball Tactical Flashlight. I would always recommend this on any weapon you can get it on. It's relatively the same price as the other tactical devices. And this gives an IR flashlight and a normal flashlight. So I'd always recommend getting that, but you can use whatever tactical device you want. And then for the muzzle brake, we're going to be using the JMac RRD4C muzzle brake for AKM. And if I'm not mistaken, this is actually a really cheap muzzle brake, which makes it nice that it's the lowest recoil. But I do think overall that this weapon is a little bit lacking in stats, especially the recoil. And I think that has to come down to not having a combination of muzzle brakes and silencers or muzzle brakes and other attachments with the muzzle brake. Then we are using just the normal AKM gas tube, and then we're just keeping the AKM standard rear sight on. These really don't affect anything. There's not a real reason to keep it on or take it off. Then we're using the Voltor CMRD Keymod handguard, and even if you have the vendor of this, I think this is one of the more expensive pieces of this weapon. So that is the entirety of the build. And in my opinion, this isn't going to be, at least at these stats, this isn't going to be one of the top tier meta weapons. The BP bullets that aren't that expensive are still a pretty good round. And I think most people probably have a ton of BP laying around. I haven't really used any 7.62 x 39 weapons in this patch. I haven't bought a single BP round, and I have a full ammo case full of BP rounds just from the gift that they gave us early on in the wipe, and just tons of other people using BP because of that gift. So if you have a ton of BP rounds lying around, you might as well go use some of them, because that's still a really good round, even if the weapon that the rounds are being used in don't have that top tier meta stats. And like I said, there will be a link in the description to the Tarkov Gunsmith website that'll show you all the parts you need for this build and show updated prices on the flea market for all of these parts. So subscribe if you want to see more Escape from Tarkov videos, leave a like if you liked the video, leave a comment down below what you guys think about this AKM build, and thanks for watching.
Завалили. Ага, нормально. А вот он. Граната тут. Вон он, вон. Вон он, упырь! Ты куда пошел?